We understand! Sit down! Sit down! Sit down! Sit down!
We just signed an agreement to bring our people back home. We want to bring our people back home.
We're ending America's longest war. I will not send another generation of Americans to war in Afghanistan.
I don't think we understood the scale and scope of what the evacuation would eventually turn into.
They kind of made it sound like, oh, it's going to be quick and simple, we're going to be in and out, but that didn't happen here.
Get up!
It was a humanitarian catastrophe.
تصور دانا كده سكابل اللي مو بونيس طبعا مو بغالب وخشال أبو
دي كابل لفتح تصميم من قونيوه عام خلقم دمونا زياد ويردلا.
That was a terrifying time, and it was a full chaos. Everyone was moving toward the airport to get out of Afghanistan. We fear that a war may start. We were all afraid. It was about our families, about loved ones. It was about the city that I was born in, I was raised in.
Yo, let's fucking go!
I'm the commanding officer for 1st Battalion, 8th Marines. Around August 12th of 2021, that bell rang in the middle of the night, and things got quick very fast. And by the 13th, we were standing in Afghanistan.
All right, you boys ready? I'm gonna head out.
We went into Afghanistan just with what was on our backs. Came off the plane and immediately started working. I only had 150 people and didn't have much of the equipment that I needed in those first several days.
We knew we were there to begin the mission, which was evacuate the at-risk Afghans, the U.S. citizens. We kind of thought that it would be a relatively orderly process because security would be maintained at least around Kabul. We didn't think this was going to turn into what it did. Kabul airport is kind of in a bowl. It's surrounded by mountainous terrain on the northern side that kind of wraps around to the west.
It's just a large airfield. It was a strategic location where lots of supplies and troops were brought in and out of country. It was a military and civilian airport all at the same time. The CIA, the Afghans, and certainly some of our coalition partners had large portions of that base. There was kind of an outer perimeter wall. Everyone kind of had their piece of that large pie, if you will. So the first 2 days, everyone's manning their positions, security's stable, just business as usual. So planes were taking people out, but not really Afghan civilians that I saw at this point.
Planes were coming in and out were just taking the high-level Afghans, diplomats out of our embassy. The civilian evacuation hadn't begun yet, so we were getting out the VIPs first.
2 days after we had gotten there, Got there on the 13th, and the 15th, all hell broke loose.
On the 15th is when the Taliban entered Kabul.
جهاد خو چې 15 کاله مبارزه ما خپله کړې ده. او امریکایان د مونږه د کورنۍ نه 2 نفر شهیدان کړي وو، نو مونږ دې ته وهڅولو چې مونږ جهاد شروع کړو.
که څه مړکی وم خو دې به ډېر خوند راکوه چې اوس ما سره یو بم وای او داسې غلغلی وای په داخلو مې دا بم ویلی وای. وړکی یم دی خو احساس مې دا رقم و، نفرت مې ورسره و، کینه ظلم و دې وحشت مې کته.
سمد دا واقعي خبره ده چې امریکایان په تېرو 20 کلو کې زموږ دښمنان وو او امریکایان مات سولو او د شهیدانو وینو او د پیتویانو قربانیانو یو مثبت رنګ راوړل.
زه د پیدایانو او د چریکیانو رهبر وم.
اصلي زیاتره داسې و چې د مقعد د لیارې موږ یوه ځای ته تللي یو، اونته موږ د دا شیانو هم څه استفاده کړله.
دلته موږ مرمۍ کې ورچو، خپله رغلي وو. امریکایان نه غوښتل چې جنګ وشي او نه نور په وس پوره وه. ساده تکنالوژي او د دوی د مډرن تکنالوژي ځواب به وي، دفاع به وي. نو دا چې کله دلته موږ ورننوتلو موږ اندازه ورکړله چې ګورې کابل سکوتي، هغه دا د خوب لیدل وو. داسې چې بیا به وټکېدلو، بیا به هم چې داسې کله چېرته ولاړو یا به کوم ځای ته ورننوتو لکه خوب چې وینو.
The first day I got to Kabul, we were not expecting that Kabul will fall down so quickly.
کله چې کابل د فتح تصمیم مونږ ونیو، هغه دغه د تیر دولت خلک خپل هغه ساحې پرېښودلې.
حرکات هم درته ور وکړو په چې ډایرکټ ارک ته نور خو نه راغلی چې ارک ته ننوځي.
همین وقت که میرفتیم همین داخل ارک، الحمدلله اونجا رفتیم که هیچ کس نیست، کسی مقابله نکردن و ارکشان که مرکز فساد اینا بودن الحمدلله او را تصرف کردیم. بسم الله. ما همیشه یکی که بسیار خوشحال بودیم که در ارک آمدیم. دومش هم ارک داخل شدیم که تو احساس میکردیم که این ارک نیست بلکه یک فاحشه خانه است.
I come to the Joint Operations Center where our general is. That's when I learned that the government had collapsed, the Afghan president was gone, and the diplomatic mission in Afghanistan was closed. And we look up at the 10 or 20 TV screens, and all it showed was the civilian airport, the southern portion of the base, and thousands of people just running. And all I could do was drop the meal that I had picked up, put down the bottle of water, put my kit back on, lock and load my rifle, look at a couple people and say, "You with me?" And we just ran. And the mass sea of humanity wanting to evacuate was right there on our doorstep.
A lot of families were carrying their travel bags with themselves and were going toward the airport.
او بجا موږ ځان میدان ته ورسو چې کله چې میدان ته چې لاړو نو په دې لارو کې چې موږ لیدلې چک پاینونه د طالبانو چک پاینونه ول
از اونجا باز بزن وای رفتم
ټول افغانانو همدغه کوشش همدغه و چې مخکې تګلاره وکړي او ځان تیاري ته ورسي لکه د یو معاشر ورځ په میدان هوایي کابل کې جوړه شوله
The initial push was probably about 5,000 people.
Civilians were already starting to come. They were starting to come and basically knock on the door and say, I need to get out. And they would say, you know, I have papers. My husband was an interpreter and served with you guys. I need to get out. Women crying, showing up with all their kids and extended family. We weren't really open for evacuation operations just yet. You know, we didn't have everyone there just yet. We have a large portion of civilians that have finally gotten through the gate. The base is completely breached. The airfield's completely overrun. Those aircraft to them meant freedom. They just planted right there to block everything, you know, basically to say, you will take me in that thing right there, and I'm not moving until you do it. And at this point, we've rousted the 150 Marines that I have to open up the airfield. We had planes, you know, flying in the air, just loitering. They could not land. Anyone standing on that airfield, a plane can't land and a plane can't take off. So there's no way in or out right now.
We tried to push them back and keep them off of the runway so we could continue to land our additional forces, continue to land supplies, because that was our lifeline. If we lost that airfield, I have no doubt we would have all died.
So from midnight to about 5 in the morning, we pushed them back. And to try to put this into words of that fight that night, it was hand to hand. It was using rifles as impact weapons. It wasn't pleasant for them. It wasn't pleasant for us.
دا مکمله موږ نشي دلته محاصره غونډې کړلو د مکمله د ترمینال مخې ته د افغاني شرکتونو تیاری ولاړ و د دې تیارو بغلو ته موږ سیمې خاردار ونیو کشه که موږ یې راایسار کړو
توجه د نړۍ او د خصوصا د افغانستان خصوصا د پایتخت ټوله جلب شوله میدان هوایي ته چې بس امریکا ده او ټول افغانستان امریکا ته وړي نو د مجاهدینو ما درته وایي چې ټول تمرکز هم میدان هوایي ته شو
موږ چې کابل ته کله رالو په دغه وخت کې د میدان هوایي چارې ماته وسپارل شوې استشهادي مجاهدین د زرو کسانو په شاوخوا کې موږ په میدان باندې چارچاپیر کړل امریکایان په دغه وخت کې په میدان هوایي د داخل کې په داخل د ترمینل کې او له ترمینل د نینې په رمپ ساحه کې امریکایان موجود وو دا حالت به داسې نازک حالت ته ورسېدل سي امکان به ډېر نږدې سو چې مجاهدین په امریکایانو باندې ډزې وکړي او امریکایان ووژني
On, I guess, early morning on the 16th, some Taliban infiltrators in the crowd, and they started to engage the Marines that were on the airfield. That's when things started to get a little crazy.
Right about sunup, this Taliban fighter appeared, firing his rifle in the air, and one of our Marines killed him. One clean shot took his life. And that's when I fired my weapon and shot the second one in the chest. We've been fighting these people for 20 years. So he was a target, he was a threat, and he had to go.
There's this firefight that's happening right in front of us now while the numbers only continue to grow. Now the number I would say is between 8,000 and 10,000. We had opened the airfield, so that was a huge win.
On the 16th of August, when I woke up, all I heard was that this family has left, that family has left. And there was a rumor that around 900 people were evacuated from Afghanistan. And people of different categories could leave Afghanistan on that night.
نو دوه ورځې داسې جالبه وه چې خلک راتلل، بیا دغه خو خلک به هم راتلل. هر څه بدل و، هر څه موږ خو ډېر احساس د خوشحالۍ کو که نه. نو ډېر عجیب خسانه دا شوه چې په کوم جنګ به چې ورغلی چې یو یې لونګۍ ده یو ملو ډوله دی، یعنې داسې هم پېښ شوي دي چې هغه سارک هم پرېښود، منډه یې درته اخیسته، ښځو به هم ډارېدې، وړکي هم ډارېدل.
It was very dark times we spent in Afghanistan when Taliban took over. Before Taliban took over, we have a simple life. Not perfect. It was not perfect, but it was good. قبل از اینکه طالبان افغانستان رو بگیره، چرا که من اولین سال پانتون خود را آغاز کرده بودم و بسیار زیاد برای من جای تاسف بود و بسیار غمگین شده بودم که نمیتونستم، چون میفهمیدم که اینا اجازه نمیتن دخترها را که برن کار کنن در بیرون یا برن درس بخونن.
We are the main victims, like women. And I fear that the changes that Afghan women brought to the Afghanistan, like they have fought for years for the ability to get educated, for the ability to work. And on that day, I felt like all their efforts will be ruined in one day.
The women were thinking of killing, brutality, clashes, forced marriages. That is what all the women had in mind, specifically the women who were working, because they knew what the reality was. So that was a horror, insecurity, uncertainty, and brutality.
طالبان وارد شهر شدن و ما داریم فرار میکنیم. مردم همه ترسیدن.
چې یوال دی ګریز دی. هغه مجاهدین خو خلکو ته داس جوړ کړو چې دا بابه ودي، دا څوک خوري، دا چې څنګه ورشي ښځه مړه کېوي، وړکی مړ کېوي، کاله ییره مړه کېوي.
هیڅ مجاهد، هیڅ افغان، هیڅ طالب دا نه غوښتل چې دغه دما افغاني خویندې، افغاني ورونه او مسلمانان دي د کفارو په لمن کې خارج ته ووځي او هلته د په کفري او په امریکایي دماغ باندې وروزل شي.
Our mission was to not let anyone to leave the country.
د خلکو نه ډوري ټکونکو خلکو بچي سیل وظافه بچي واره بغله وراجونه چې په ورخوشي بشول وراجونه نه به د وسپنې ورته تکې کېدې نه د بونجونه ورته تکېدل.
طرف طالب میزن از طرف امریکایی میزن ببینید چه وضعیت کل کابل همیشه است یک ملت دارن فرار میکنه حالا هم ببینید که چگونه مردم از ترس طالب فرار میکنن گویا قیامت است مردم دارن از محشر فرار میکنن مردم دارن از جهنم فرار میکنن
Boy, that whole base was porous. It really was. There were a lot of weak points. We were certainly having breaches in security all over the base, people just jumping the walls and then trying to get in.
People started coming over fences, coming through the airport.
It's 10 o'clock. I look over to my left. Thousands just start pouring through another hole in the wall that we didn't even know. We didn't know that portion of the base.
I think the estimate was 24,000 Afghans inside the airport, with untold number of outside the airport.
So now we have to split the already small force that we have to run back across the airfield, go get those people, corral them, and just start pushing them back over several hours.
The runway was the mission. Keep the runway open at all costs.
ټانګونه ودرول ټانګونه مخکې راتلل سره د عسکرو امریکایانو ډزې شروع کړلې بل بیا دوی هوایي ډزې هم کولې چې ځي شاته لاړ شي مه راځئ شاته لاړ شئ
That was the first moment that I thought I was going to die. The threat of a suicide bomber or a lone wolf with a weapon. I mean, none of these people were searched. I don't know what they had on them. Could have easily taken all of us out in an instant.
No, shoot! No, shoot! Shoot, no!
We've got thousands of people panicked.
د جمع جوش کې ما په دې سترګو خپله ولیدل چې مور سره ماشومان ول دا دواړه ماشومان د بینه لاړل او مړه شول او هملته یې پرېښوستل او میړې د لاس نه ونیو سره د نورو ماشومانو چې راځه دا خو پرېږده اوس دا خو چې مړ شو راځه نو چې ځو
So to clear a path for the aircraft, we had Apaches essentially fly as low as they possibly could to physically push the people out of the way.
Then a C-17 comes in because the airfield's open. Just mass hysteria. You could see in their eyes. They just immediately overran us. They just pushed us aside, ran over Marines, punching, clawing, screaming, which shut the airfield down again.
مونږ چې هغه تیارو پسې منډې وهلې دا خبره یې دا نظر کې نه و چې مونږ به نور دلته په افغانستان کې پاتې شو. مونږ ویل چې نور باید چار څنګه کېږي دغه ملک نه ووځو.
That's the beacon of hope and freedom to them. They think they need to get on that to get out. And so now it's the long 1.5 kilometer run back, you know, as we're chasing everybody. And my position at that point was get the people in front of me back. And it was just a straight brawl. You know, I'm still getting radio calls now from the operations center saying, hey, the airfield is not open anymore. You need to get these people off. I'm like, I got it. We need to get the people off. The people are just all around it. And I get up to where I know the pilot would be able to see me if he looked over. And he finally looked over like this, and he makes eye contact with me. And I pointed at him, and I said, you need to go now. And he very slowly started moving that C-17.
People kind of climbed on the airplane. Maybe they thought that was their way to get out of Afghanistan, was to ride on the outside of a C-17 somewhere.
I see the C-17 gaining speed. And as, you know, we're kind of at each other's throats, it's one of this where we kind of stop and watch as the C-17, it captures the attention of the entire crowd and everything just goes silent.
طیارې نه نفر ولوېده ښه پر استریکو 4-5 نفره ترې راولوېدل په دوو کې وختله
د نور لاسو پښې مې نسې لړزېدل چې دا مړي ما ولیدل دا مړي هلته پاتې شول لاتي نور موږ بېرته برګشت وکړو.
That kind of deflated the entire situation. C-17 was finally gone. Those people had fallen. Maybe some of the people on the ground there realized, okay, there's got to be another way because they're not letting us out right now. So now we're getting to the end of, really, it would have been a day and a half at this point. And more people started to come. The sun's starting to go down. We've lost the airfield several more times. For every commander, you never want to tell your men you don't know what to do. In that moment, I had no idea what to do. I get a call on the radio. They call and tell me that we're going to partner with an Afghan Special Forces unit who's going to come help us. I'm thinking, this is great. Okay, this is a host nation force that knows this culture, speaks this language. They're going to help out. Really, at this point, I just need extra people. I don't care who it is. The Afghan unit that was there, the way they got the people off to get the point was just running everyone over and shooting them.
They killed them.
I watched from afar. It was dark at this point, so I could only see who was getting run over and shot by a vehicle headlight. It was a horrific scene.
There was people getting executed on the airfield, and it was horrible to see that happen. But it cleared out the airfield.
And that Afghan unit, their arrival is what quelled the airfield. I don't know what would happen on the airfield if they wouldn't have gone.
That night and that next morning, there were no more large crowds.
تصمیم دا اوس دا نن باید کنفرانس وکړو ځکه چې خلک ډېر منتظر پاتې شوي دي او تشویش ډېر ده او ویره ډېره ده میدان هوایي ته خلک تښتي دي افغانستان د وتلو هڅه روانه ده.
سلام علیکم.
هغوی د خپل سر ویره لري. دغه ناسته او دا کنفرانس کې ما هڅه وکړه چې مخامخ خلک مخاطب کړم څوک ویره ونه لري مطمئن اوسېږي او تښته ونه کړي خپل هېواد او هر څه نفرتونه چې نور ختم دي.
بناء د علي قدر امیر المؤمنین د فرمان په اساس ټول هغه کسانو ته مقابل جهاد کې ولاړ او عفو سوي موږ هغو ټول ته عفو کړی ده. بناء کومې کورنۍ چې په میدان هوایي کې د ویرې له وجې نه هلته انتظار کوي د تګ باید دا اوس بیرته راوګرځي خپلو کورونو ته. هېڅوک هغوی نه تعقیبوي، هېڅوک هغو ته ضرر نه رسي. موږ ډاډ ورکوو. د ښځو موضوع یوه مهمه موضوع ده. اسلامي امارت متحد ده چې د ښځو حقوقو ته د شریعت په چوکاټ کې پابند اوسېږي. موږ ډاډ ورکوو چې د ښځو په وړاندې به هېڅ نوع تاوتریخوالی نه کېږي، هېڅ نوع تبعیض ته به اجازه نه ورکول کېږي.
په هغه شپه چې ظفیر الله مجاهد خبري کانفرانس ورکړ د په خپل خبرو کې چې و موږ خو راغلو اوس موږ په ټول افغانستان باندې حاکم یو خو موږ مېرمنې پرېږدو په خپلو دندو ته لاړ شي څه چې اغوندي څه چې کوي. اما هغه څه چې دوی ویله هغه یې ونه کړل.
سلامونه ستړي مه شئ شپه مو په خیر.
2014 کال نه مې چې پیل کړ هم مهال هم مې ټولنیز پروګرامونه کوه او هم نیوز څنګه مې مخته وړله. تر هغه وروسته بیا خبر ته راغلم
ولسمشر وویل
چې طالبان راغلل. ما چې همکارانو ته زنګونه وهل مالته د دوی نه پوښتنه وکړه چې موږ راشو دفتر ته که نه. ویل چې نه پام کوه رانشي دفتر چې تاسو وویني وایي چې نه موږ زنانه نه ګورو.
ما نن وغوښتل چې د کله چې نظام بدل سو ما وغوښتل چې خپلې دندې ته ولاړه سم. همدا خپل شهامت مې لاسه ورنه کړ. خو له بده مرغه چې ما ته اجازه رانه کړل شوه سربیره پر دې چې ما کارت هم درلود. هغه نارینه کارکوونکي زموږ چې وو هغوی د کارت په لرلو سره هغوی په دې باندې بریالي شول چې دفتر ته لاړ شي. خو ما ته یې ګواښ وکړ چې تاسو نشئ کولی خپلې دندې ته دوام ورکړئ ځکه چې نظام بدلون کړی دی. نو دلته
خو دا ویډیو مې چې کله په ټویټر کې پوسټ کړه ما فکر دا نه کوو چې دا په یو ساعت کې دا دومره وایرل شي. د برټانیې حکومت لخوا ما ته افر راغی چې موږ غواړو ستا ژوند وژغورو، ته باید د افغانستانه بهر راووځې ځکه تا اوس په سر جنجال اخیستی ده. ستا ویډیو چې خپره شوه
پدرم در سفارت بریتانیا کار میکرد. به خاطر از اینکه ما میفهمیدیم اگر طالبا بفهمند که پدر ما با MBC یا سفارت کار میکنه اونا را خود کشتن یا حتی خانوادهش یا حتی ما را.
I was the acting minister for women's affairs. I was told that if you do not leave in the coming 3 days, you will be assassinated. And that is when I decided to leave the country.
We're getting into the 17th. The airfield's open. More Marines are starting to come in now. We start establishing security at some of the outer gates where we're going to start processing operations, i.e. pull in people through these gates and move them to the terminal to process, to then put them on planes, to formally start the evacuation. And we were going to have 3 processing points, North Gate and East Gate. And then Abbey Gate was the other one. And there were many, many more people trying to come through than we thought.
We started getting more forces in off the planes. The sea of humans just started to appear outside the gates. The other gates hadn't got bad yet.
Push back, push back, push back. You need to back up. You need to stop asking the Marines. You need to back up and you need to get in order. This is not going to work.
Once we got to those gates, we couldn't start accepting people in yet because we didn't have the tactics available to be able to work the gates. We had to get people in place. We had to get depth in place to protect the gate. We were checking on our positions, dug in case we took fire from the Taliban again.
Nothing but Taliban out there.
It's crazy, yo.
We're going out. Good.
Our higher echelons of command, our generals and our admirals, were interacting with the Taliban leadership at that point. They were setting conditions for us to get out on time. 31st, you're out of here. We're getting all sorts of requests coming down. This one's coming from the top. I'm being told, hey, we're working with the Taliban now. Working with the Taliban? I just killed a bunch of Taliban. What are you talking about?
A deal with the Taliban had been struck. So we had this weird quasi-peace with these guys.
They're doing outer security, we're doing inner security, holding the gate. The Taliban are there with the people. The dynamic was changing right before our eyes.
It blew my mind, they told us, they're gonna help us with crowd control. And we're like, what do you mean? What do you mean we're working with the Taliban? Like, I couldn't believe it.
I'll never forget standing shoulder to shoulder with the Taliban. And the deep seated feeling of hatred I had as I looked at him in his eyes, and the tingly feeling going up and down my spine, and the instinct to want to fight, you could tell it was in them as well. They didn't look at us with any favor in their eyes.
د موږ د قطاعت او د دوی ترمنځ سره نږدې وو. تقریبا 15 نه 12 کاله 13 کاله مخکې د دوی په خلاف ما وسله پورته کړې وه. او بیا چې کله دوی ما لیدل چې دا دوی اخري صحنې دي، دوی په دې میدان کې محصور دي او سیمې خاردار یې منځ کې ده او بیا پسې موږ ولاړ یو. ډېر خوښ وم چې خدای پاکه تر دې جیم راورسول او انشاءالله دا لنډ ورځو کې له دې جیم چې اخلو دوی ځي دي موږ له ملکه. دا د ما لپاره ډېر د خوښۍ ځای او جالب ورځ.
امریکایانو څخه هم خبره کړې وه چې دوی سره داسې مجاهد پر پیدا شي. ګوره دلته خو ډېر خلک کړاولي، امریکا خو سخت ظلمونه وکړل. چیرې ورته ونیسي ورجنه دروازې نه داسې 25 کې باد کو که نه، دلته خو بیا د قول او لاوز د ایمون د امارت فیصله کېدو.
My function was that of the American ambassador to Afghanistan. After I got to the airport, we were able to contemplate the crowds outside now and how to deal with them and how to get those that we want to evacuate out of the country, how to make that happen.
So the Marines are just trying to figure out security. And when I say that, I mean like it's 30 Marines there against 3,000 people pushing.
What we didn't anticipate was the sheer desperation and fear and willingness of the people to put themselves at tremendous risk to get themselves and their families out of Afghanistan.
What the fuck are we doing? We're getting overrun. Let's go! Push back! Push back!
It was a fight every minute of every single day. Because if they broke through the gate and got onto the airfield, like, we fail our mission.
Back up! Back up! Back up! Back the fuck up! Back the fuck up! Back the fuck up! Back up! Let's go, let's go!
Once we established the gates, that's when the grind really began. We had to figure out how to work these gates. How can we open the gate, let a few people in to get screened and processed, and then shut the gate without losing it, without the flood coming.
Family stick together! Family stick together! Back up! Oh,
So when we started working the gates, that's when the human disaster of this entire operation started. When you have miles of people, shoulder to shoulder on top of each other, they're just sitting there waiting to get their turn to go through the gate.
The situation on the ground is like something like I've never experienced before in any of my deployments. And, you know, we just did the best that we possibly could.
Daily life on those gates wasn't clean. It was dirty. It was stress-filled.
Get him up! Get up!
حالت سیمه ولیده بیخي ماته حیرانونکی ښځې ماشومان په ټوله مې زړه مې ډېر وځورېده.
دا چې کرم دا ترتیب امریکایانو جوړ کړ د افغانانو د تګ، نو دوی هلته په ډېر خراب حالات کې وو او د دوی هلته وضعیت ډېر خراب و، ځکه د لوږې سره مخامخ وو، تندې سره مخامخ وو، بیخي وضعیت خراب وو. مونږه هغلته ابیګیټ ته چې کله لاړلو، ګرمۍ له وجې نه هغه حالاتو کې ګرمي زیاته وه، د ګرمۍ او د لوږې له وجې نه 7 نفر مړه هم سوله.
When we went to the airport, we came to Abbey Gate. Taliban were standing there. We were afraid of being targeted. We came down. There was no electricity, so it was good. Because it was dark, no one could see us. It was so crowded that you would say there is no oxygen in there.
نامعلومې مودې لپاره زه کله نه وم وتلی، خو زه غواړم چې دا دوه خور ورور هم راسره وي. نو هماغه ورځ موږ په ډېر خواشینۍ څخه د مور پلار نه خدای پاماني واخیسته او ټول واقعیت یو بد احساس درلود. ما مې مور په تندي ښکل کړه، زه نه پوهېدم چې بیا به زما کورنۍ ژوندۍ پاتې شي که نه. یعنې تر ټولو بده خاطره چې ما د کابل نه په دې وروستي تاریخ ما ځان سره راوړه، زما د مور د تندي ښکلولو او دا فکر چې زه به آیا بیا د دې وړ اوسم چې د مور لاسونه ونیسم او زه به بیا مور ښکل کړم، زه به بیا مور ووینم. دا بده خاطره واقعا را سره. په هغه ورځ چې موږ غوښته سفر ولړو میدان ته لاړ شو هغه ورځ موږ ته ډیره بده ورځ وه ځکه موږ تیر ځل هیڅ کله هم بهرنی سفر نه درلود هغه هم یوازې د مور پلار څخه ما کله داسې د ډزو غږ د نږدې نه و اورېدلی ما فکر کوم کابل فیر وشي زما غوږ به لاړ شي ورسره مثلا یا به زما پوزه ورسره لاړه شي ډېر په خواشینۍ سره موږ په تمه وو تر څو موږ باید زر تر زره دننه شو خدای مه کړه زه زما ورور یا زما خور کوم یو ټپي نه شي د دوی په ډزو
We were using non-lethal munitions, riot control weapons.
We were aggressive. We took a very aggressive stance with our security. CS gas.
Rounds?
Rubber bullets fired from shotguns.
بیادر مرا اینا میجه خارجی ها زدن ما جنازه را برداشتیم اینا مرا به ایالت رساندن
Hey! Hey! We need flashbangs! We need non-lethal grenades! Money.
خانه ما موقعیتش در بغل میدان است. او مدنی سودا میکردم. شبهای مردم تیر میشد. چون بیروبار زیاد بود نه جای خواب بود کس خواب کنه همگی اینمه تو رفت آمد بود استاد بود همه تو کوشش میکردن که نزدیک دروازه خدا بسازن طفلا زیر پای میشد یک تفلک از بین رفته بود گازش کاور که انداخته بودن یک دانه ریش سفید از بین رفت
بدترین حسی بود که در زندگی میتونی داشته باشی که خودت یا اطرافیانت به خاطر از اینکه زنده مانی از کشور خودت فرار کنی دیگه حتی جای پای جای تنفس کردن حتی نبود اونجا بسیار زیاد وضعیت خراب بود بعضی فامیلایی هم بودن حتی که اونا دوباره دیگه میدان هوایی را ترک کردن حتی گفتن به قیمت جان ما نیست ما نمیخوایم ترک کنیم پیش از اینکه ما بخوایم کشور را ترک کنیم ما خود در این وضعیت مردیم یا کشته خواهد شدیم و ما مردم می دیدم چهره های خسته چهره های غمگین
I went to the airport and it was not sure whether you will be able to get to the gate or not. So we returned, but that scene will always remain in my mind.
If you have a passport, you got to go that way. If you have a passport, go that way.
No.
Get up!
Wait.
Get back!
Get back!
You know, there was some letter that the Department of State was supposed to send out to people. Well, we quickly realized that everyone was just airdropping that letter or screenshotting a picture of that letter and sending it to everyone. Because it didn't have like specific people's names on it.
And you got people, and some of them are you know, yelling at us, help me, I have this paper, I have this letter from the embassies. Some of them are showing us ID, but it's not the right ID. Some of them are showing us ID and it's the right ID, and we help them. We're like, come on, jump over. But these other ones who we have to make leave because, you know, they don't have that requirement. You know, what do? We got to force them over that wall.
We've got women, children, pleading, crying, screaming, please, mister, you know, the Taliban will kill me.
The stuff they went through, like trying to get through those gates, I can't imagine how they felt on the other side of the gate. You're dealing with people who, you know, blood all over them. They could have possibly like been shot or hurt, or they've been standing out there for days and they have no water, they have no food, and they're, you know, they're going on themselves, like there, because there's nowhere for them to go.
You go to a gate, the heat and the smell would just hit you.
Every gate kind of smelled bad, but Abbey Gate, it was definitely the worst. And they're standing in, yeah, I think it was a sewage canal, you know, they're standing in shit and piss, you know? And that's the stuff that if we did pull them, you know, that's what we pulled them out of, you know, if we threw them out, that's what we threw them into.
وقتی ما داخل آب شدیم در مدت 4 ساعت اونجا باقی ماندیم یا ایستاده بودیم با کثافات پر بود تا قسمت بدن ما آب بود اما امروز اونا در داخل آب با کثافات ایستاده بودند فقط به خاطر از اینکه زنده بمانن کشورشان را ترک میکنن.
It's every man for himself right now, just trying to save themselves.
Seeing people come in like just, you know, they didn't make it, they're dead, and we, you know, we dealt with everything. You know, children being pushed around, mushed, because they're just caught in the crowd. They come through us injured, hurt, dying, bleeding.
Some people had been there 3, 4, 5 days as the operation continued, and yet they stayed there. Women were having their babies right in front of us. Families just handing their babies over, you know, and giving up and walk, you know, trying to walk away, trying to move back, you know, just save this.
That was one instance of 100 of children getting passed over.
And it's sad seeing these newborns, these kids, just some of these women carrying their dead babies because they died in their arms, you know, with them trying to come through the gate. And, you know, like, they kind of hand us their baby and it's like, what do you want me to do with this? You know, it became normal for us. And that's kind of sad to say. You know, some of the girls on my team, you know, you know, I highly doubt they would ever forget that.
The orphans that would come through, whose parents died out in the crowd. We had numerous men and women behind the gates in the search tents just caring for infants, caring for toddlers. Their parents would never make it through the gate.
Some of them have been dislocated from their families. They didn't know where their parents were because their parents didn't make it through, you know?
The next few days, we started to get the people through the gates.
Go this way, please. Let's go. You're good. You're good. You got it.
Keep going this way, please.
Let's go. Come on, this way. Let's go. You're good. You're good. You got it. Let's go.
So we had Department of State consulates that were verifying papers of everybody that was coming through at the start, where we would try to get people in, screen them, get them through, get them to the terminal so they could fly out.
You ready?
The gate would open up only a few feet to allow people through.
This way, please. You're okay. Thank you.
Because I had the paper and the emails, a soldier called. He said, okay, you can come. He said, you're in safe hands. We made it.
ما 4 شبانه روز در میدان هوایی بودیم و نتونستیم که می دروازه را باز کنیم. طرف سربازان از آب بیرون کشیده شدیم تا اینکه باز ما بعداً وارد میدان هوایی شدیم.
دوی له خپله یو هیواده چې له خپلې خاورې و له خپل ټاټوبي چې په داسې حالت کې تېښته نه وای کړې کاشکې دوی هم په دغه فتح کې او په دغه د امریکا په شکست کې یو ونډه درلودای.
It was a very sad situation. They're leaving their country, you know, with nothing. I definitely empathized with them because I could never imagine having to, you know, leave my entire life, everything that I've worked so hard for, leave it behind and try to hope and freaking pray that I get on a plane to get out of the country.
دننه شو آلته تلاشي و چې لاړو موږ ته لاسبندونه ولګول. کله چې تیاری ته لاړو بیخي ډېر زیات خلک ول. زه زما خور او زما ورور ټول په ګډه یو ځای کې ناست وو او دا شپه په ډېرې ویرې په خفګان تېره شوه ځکه څه چې موږ په سړک کې لیدلي ول څه چې موږ په لاره کې لیدلي او هغه ټول تصویر زما په ذهن کې ګرځېده چې څنګه په سختي موږ راغلو دننه شو او څه بد حال مو تېر کړ.
The circumstances that I left, it was a matter of life and death. You leave a place where you never think you leave. But you leave it because you can't live.
We've got the tracker here in the operations center. We're documenting how many citizens that we've helped. It's 100-something thousand. And threat reporting is starting to increase at this point too. We know that one of these gates is being targeted. Suicide bomber, something. Something was going to happen.
They freaked out about a bomb over there.
So there's a potential ISIS attack. Next 48 hours.
Maybe we're targeting us or targeting the crowd?
Us and the crowd at the same time because it's going to fuck everybody up.
ISIS threat reporting had become greater and greater in volume, and so everybody is really on a trigger edge.
Fuck, man! Holy shit.
North Gate and East Gate were along roads directly exposed to the worst thing that could have happened. That was a vehicle, improvised explosive device, you know, where you could just pack so much explosive into those things.
Get on line over here. Come on, let's go. Over there. Let's fucking go.
Which car is it?
What's up?
How do they know it's a V-bid?
Army intel. This is bad. This is very bad. This is very bad. Get down! You all get down! Get down! I don't fucking like that truck.
Huh?
I don't like how these trucks are moving so slow.
مونږ ته داسې شپر راغلی و چې د داعش په نامه باندې خبر راته راغلی و چې داعش په میدانوي باندې موټر بم او اسکټ بم برید کوي.
We took stronger measures at North Gate and East Gate that day on the 26th because the reporting had started to increase.
I personally no longer felt comfortable, so we kind of made the decision to stop bringing people in through those gates.
The North and the East Gate stopped processing individuals. I think more people started to inadvertently flow to the Abbey Gate because they still realized that that was open. Everybody had a backpack on them, so it's very difficult given a threat like that because everybody is a threat at that point.
بیا چې کله موږ مخکې ورغلو دروازه هم د مخې د ویالې د لارې څخه دلته لاړو دلته هم سخت بیروبار و.
They're saying there may be a potential IED. A little while goes on and they clear us and okay, we're gonna keep pushing people through. And we're like, what the fuck? We backed up a little bit, not much, because they're still sending people through. I'm uncomfortable the whole time.
بم انفجار کرد. ما همینجا یک 50 متر دورتر بودیم. ما زخمه دیدیم که یک سیاسرم که همه خورده بود، سرش همه تو بریده بود، در سر سیم خاردار قسم سرش ماندگی بود.
It was carnage, something like I had never seen before.
You see Marines that are torn up. You see multiple people doing this, and they're working on them. They're doing the gauze.
I was within the blast zone of the IED. I saw the flash and felt the heat. It knocked me down, and I received a piece of shrapnel to my right side. A lot of the Marines and sailors that were directly in front of me were my Marines and sailors that were killed. In the immediate aftermath, there was gunfire that erupted.
I heard rounds going off. That was some of the Marines on the gate firing out, because an IED never comes alone. That comes with the ground attack, that comes with a sniper attack. There's always something coming with it. You harden your position, you make yourself hard to kill.
4 مردم که مرمی زدن.
داسې ډورېدل د امریکا ذره چوده والا ټول یې وویشتل.
سن متر 15 مترۍ کې مونږ ته انفجار وسو. دوی په خپل مرمۍ چې وویشتل مونږ خپل وم لیدله او هغه اثرات د مرمۍ هم په دوی کې معلومېدله.
کله صحنې ته ورغلو چې په صحنه کې حالات بل دی، خلک دي په دو خواهی منډه خستې ده، یعنی په څلورو طرفو دو جوچو ته خلک لوېدلي دي، په سیمو خالدارو کې بند شوي دي. وره جانه
دغه بم ساحه خو ځکه داسې یو 15-16 متره موږ نه لرې وه او موږ بیا هلکې وو نو زه تر کوم ځای پوهېږم داسې شاید یو دقیقه یا یوه نیمه دقیقه غوندې زه داسې بېهوشه وم نو اوبه وې زه چې کله ولوېدم خولې ته مې اوبه تللې وې زه بېرته را په هوش راغلم چې جیګ شوم هم د کالي مې ویښتانو کې مې داسې غوښې نښتې وې او درې ورونه مې خپل د لاسه ورکړ او سر کو یې چرې خوړلې وې غټې غټې چرې
امریکایان ټول لاړل داخل د میدانوي دوی دروازې وتړلې دغه دروازو نه بیخي ووتل اته د دې خلکو د ورتګ لپاره زمينه بیخي بند کړه هغه زمينه بیخي برابر نه کړه
حتی چندین شب و دست بوی ماخو نداشتیم بسیاری حتی سگا بسیار زیاد شده بود چون گوشت هر طرف افتاده بود میخوردن
The gates are closed. We're no longer taking any more people in. So the people that are on the base that we've processed in, our job then becomes them to get them on a plane to get them out.
Good. Hey. Hello, hello.
Thanks for your help, man.
Thank you for being cooperative. Thank you. Thank you. That's it, finito. We did it.
We are rapidly approaching 31 August. The chaos was kind of really over. Certainly you got the feeling we weren't welcome anymore. It was time to get out. You know, as the Taliban were on the doorstep saying, 31st, you're out of here. The destruction plan went into full effect those last couple days.
We were destroying any sensitive equipment, trying to render all the military equipment unusable for the Taliban.
It kind of turned into a free-for-all a little bit, just smashing out windows, breaking vehicles, breaking furniture.
We're getting ready to get on the flight and it's just so surreal. I don't know why I'm crying. And I'm just hoping, like, man, please let us, like, just get out of here. And, you know, we did. And once that plane took off, I'm just like, oh, my God, it's over. It was the best feeling. It was great.
It was the last day. You know, my unit was the last Marine security unit in Afghanistan. This is an end of an era. In my opinion, I think, you know, we did a lot of good for a lot of people and certainly brought a lot of things to that country. But to have the Taliban take it over again, that's always going to be hard. Always. We were packed in just like evacuees, so it wasn't very comfortable. But we just tried to not let your mind wander too much. So you clean your weapon. Get back and reflect on what we had just done.
My fellow Americans, the war in Afghanistan is now over. The extraordinary success of this mission was due to the incredible skill, bravery, and selfless courage of the United States military and our diplomats and intelligence professionals.
20 years. It's obviously not a success. but we have to live with what we were not able to get done. The plan had been that I would be on the last flight out. We took off around midnight. It was pretty quiet and pretty somber. It was very sad. Big loss.
په دې وخت کې ما کوشش وکړ ما ځینې صحنې مې اخیستې دي ملګرو نه او موږ آزاد سو موږ محکوم افغانستان نه و دی موږ آزاد افغانستان سو
و حالا ما قطعه 313 بدری به خاطر تصفیه کردن اینجا نیست حرکت میکنیم تا فعلا اینجا تا نیم ساعت پیش اینها در اینجا بودن
سیسی منظم زیخه ویدیو را گاره ها غلط نه
I saw a very, very brutal war. Thousands of people were killed. As an Afghan, it was a very proud moment for me. And I knew that my friends will not need to conduct a suicide attack.
شل کاله هغه خلکو چې موږ سره په خپلو ټولو هغه امکانات چې دوی په لاس کې وو د موږ د تخریب د موږ د قتل د هغوی پای و
زندگی ما تغییرات زیاد آمدن وقتی که طالبان آمد چون کمکام قطع شد پیسام نیست مردمم بی پیسه شد بیکاری بیروزگاری زیاد است 4-5 ماه یک شد یعنی بیکار در خانه هستیم حتی تا پردای خانه خودم از سودا کردیم به خاطر یک لقمه نان که طفلم گشنه نمانه
لاړو تیاری طرف ته او مخکې د دې ما فکر نه کوم چې پرواز به وشي او زه به لاړه شم او زه به مسافره شم کله چې تیاری کې کېناستو او زموږ پرواز وشو بعد هغې نه ما فکر وکړو چې رښتیا هم بعد د دې موږ مسافر کېږو او زموږ سفر کېږي مور پلار وطن هر څه پاتې کېږي زموږ
وقتی همه چیز خانه زندگی درس دوست کشورت ترک کنی هیچ حسی نمیتونی داشته باشی در مقابلی از اینکه و نفهمی کجا میری چی آینده منتظر تو هست وقتی که ما داخل این هواپیما شدیم هیچ حسی نداشتم فقط میخواستم بمرم و یا خواب کنم
There were many people who were at high risk. They are still in Afghanistan. I know many examples and they are still stuck. So the situation is still disastrous.
Life in Afghanistan has changed a lot of things for women. It's a very terrible feeling when you don't know about your future. You don't have the slightest clue what my next year or what my next day in Afghanistan would be. The only option that we have is to be strong and to accept what will the future bring for us.